Tuesday, December the 18th, 1990 is a day that no one at Halesowen Town will ever be able to forget. The whole club, town and the league were devastated and left in a state of shock as news broke that the great Harry Rudge had died at the age of 72 following a short illness. As Harry himself would have said, it was a bad day at Black Rock, for the game of football had lost a supreme ambassador. Tributes soon came flooding in for the man known as H to his friends and Mr Halesowen Town to his admirers, and there were plenty of them, from top officials at the FA down to ordinary folk on the terraces. Glenn Curtin, External Affairs Officer for the FA, described Mr Rudge as the life and soul of Halesowen Town, who radiated immense energy and took delight in his football. Dennis Strudwick, Southern League Secretary, said everyone in football knew and loved Harry Rudge. To quote John Evans, Secretary of West Bromwich Albion, "Harry was a lovely man. They broke the mould when they made him. I cannot imagine a bigger loss to non-league football in the Midlands." Bob Juggins, President of the Banks's Brewery League, said Harry was regarded everywhere as a man of great honesty and integrity. He was a great friend of everybody. Former manager Paddy Page told how Harry had first signed him as a player in the early 1970s with the club at its lowest ebb. As Paddy said, it was a one-man setup and had been for years. Harry did everything. If it wasn't for him, the club would have folded. By the time I took over as manager in 1979, we couldn't even afford to pay the referee and linesman after some games. Just look at them now, a giant in the non-league game, and it's all down to Harry. The appointment of John Morris as Paddy Page's successor was a shrewd day's work by Harry Rudge. John spent a lot of time with H in his final days, but was as shocked by his death as anyone else. In John's own words, "They say no one is irreplaceable, but Harry Rudge is. He was one hell of a personality, and everyone here will miss the boss. I'm pleased I played a part in fulfilling one of Harry's ambitions of reaching Premier Division status." Let us just remind ourselves of Harry Rudge's achievements. He spent 53 years associated with Halesowen Town, joining as a player in 1937. After war service, Harry was an influential figure in the restructuring of non-league football in the Birmingham area, and, as Assistant Secretary, reformed the club in 1946, which went on to win the Birmingham League. The 1980s saw a sequence of 4 Banks's Brewery League Premier Division titles, 3 appearances in the FA Vars final at Wembley, with the second victory in 1986, closely followed by promotion to the Southern League. He had held almost every position at the club during his lengthy association: manager, secretary, treasurer, chairman, groundsman, ball boy for Groves' factory, publicity officer and fan. At the age of 72 he was still chairman and secretary. A more dedicated man you will never find, and as one of life's great statesmen, Harry Rudge also served as a magistrate in Halesowen for 27 years, from 1961 until his 70th birthday, as a school governor and as vice chairman of the Banks's Brewery League. On December the 28th, 1990, more than 500 people packed the United Church in Halesowen, where Harry regularly attended, to honour the man who devoted his life to the club. Whenever you want a reminder of Harry, you need only take a look around the Grove, where Harry could be found pacing up and down the terraces. It was his second home, and its current state left Harry a very proud man. The Harry Rudge stand remains as a living testimony to the blood, sweat and tears he gave to his beloved Halesowen. When the initial sadness and grief had been overcome, it was clear that the committee and officials of Halesowen Town had to take inspiration from Harry's work to build on its solid foundations and help the club progress. Harry Rudge may no longer be with us, but his spirit, his values and his principles will live on forever at the Grove. Stuart Tilsley became the new club secretary, and commercial manager Ron Mosley was duly elected new chairman. As Ron said at the time, words can't explain how he will be missed, but we must now move forward to develop the work started by Harry.
Being one of the longest serving members of the club, you obviously had a close relationship with Harry Rudge. Could you explain to us what this meant to you and to the club?
Well, yes, Harry Rudge simply was Mr Halesowen Town. I mean, I think his total association with the club up till when he died was something like 53 to 54 years as player, manager, secretary, chairman, you name it, he did it. And obviously, from Halesowen Town's point of view, he was one hell of a guy. He saw the club through bad times, and I'm glad that he was around when the good times came along, because nobody deserved it any more than Harry Rudge. I mean, there was times when the club struggled over the years in various areas, but he kept going, he kept pegging away, he kept the name of Halesowen going. He was very well respected throughout the leagues and the clubs, and even to this day, wherever you go, we still get to say, I bet you miss Harry Rudge. And yes, we do. The club will always miss Harry Rudge. But I think he's still here with us somewhere, keeping a watchful eye over us, and I'm sure he will approve of the way we're going and what we're trying to achieve in his name. But yes, he was one hell of a guy as far as the football club was concerned. As far as Roger was concerned, personally, Harry Rudge was one of the greatest guys I ever met. He meant a lot to me. He taught me a lot about life, humility, to be helpful, to try and help people, but to always have a good sense of humour and have a good sense of fun. And I can honestly say Harry was one of the best team makers in the world, because most Friday nights I used to go around for an hour with him, and we'd go through things and talk about things, and we'd get the kettle on, because he was teetotal at his age, he never drunk, and we'd, you know, discuss life, and obviously around the football club as well. But Harry, I'd sum him up as one of the greatest guys that I ever knew, or will ever know. He had a big bearing on my life. You know, if there's anybody I wanted to talk to, you could go and sit with H and he'd listen. And he was just one hell of a guy. And I feel very privileged to have known him, to have worked alongside him, and been associated with him for as long as I was. And he's a man I will never forget.
Becoming chairman, how did you feel about following in the footsteps of Harry Rudge?
Following the footsteps of Harry Rudge. Quite a frightening ordeal, really. I mean, how do you follow someone who's such a great character as Harry Rudge, Mr Halesowen Town, as he was called? Harry had done everything with the club. He was the club. Without Harry's support over the many years, probably the club would have folded. So it was very difficult. And at the end of the day, you have to decide that you have to accept that Harry Rudge would never ever be followed again. You couldn't follow a character such as Harry. He was a colourful character. Everybody loved him. He had his moments, as we all know, but he was always there for a quick remark, quick whip. He was a tremendous after dinner speaker. You could never follow someone like Harry Rudge. So one has to put one's own mark onto what onto raising the club into the next era. If you wish Harry brought us into the Premier, it's my job to take Halesowen Town into the conference. So I would never dream of trying to follow Harry Rudge. Harry was a great character, never to be followed. Mr Halesowen Town, as I've said so often. And everywhere you go, everyone asks, how are you getting on now? Harry's gone. Okay, we're coping. You have to cope. You move on. You change your style. But no, you could never follow Harry Rudge.
You've been influenced by the way Harry carried out his duties as a chairman.
Yes. It's difficult. Harry carried out his chairman's duties and his secretarial duties and whatever he did in the club quietly, smoothly, got on with things. I try to do the same. Okay, it's always very difficult. I think probably we're at a greater level, so the pressure is possibly greater. This last 12 months has been quite a high pressure point. But Harry's influence, you tend to think at times, I've often gone behind the stand when we're probably one down thinking, Harry, come on, what are you doing about it? And it's surprising how it does help. But Harry went about his duties quietly, efficiently, and he was meticulous in everything he did. He did it to the nth degree. A supporter, an official, he just loved the game.
Club, what did Harry mean to you?
Oh, Harry meant everything to us. I don't think you could ever miss anyone like a club can miss Harry Rudge. He was everything to me. He was the very epitome of what you want to achieve in football. Everybody respected the guy. We learnt a lot from him. He'd got 50 odd years in the club. He knew everything. He knew everybody. He was a great guy to be with, and I've so sorely missed him.
After Harry Rudge's death, his daughter Janet also became a committee member. We asked how she became involved in the club and what her duties were.
I've been brought up with Halesowen Town ever since I can remember. Dad used to bring me up here as a little girl, and then I suppose I stopped coming in my teenage years. But then in the 1983 FA Vars run, Dad asked me if I'd come up and start helping with the teas because the crowds were getting bigger. So I came back up and helped with the teas. That was when the club was operating from the old pavilion. And gradually got more involved as the years went on. I'm now responsible for providing refreshments in the boardroom for the visiting officials and directors. I also operate the kitchen at the side of the boardroom that sells to the public. And I do any other extra catering duties that are needed when the club is used by other people. We've had referees meetings here, sports council meetings, things like that, so I get involved there and do the catering for those occasions. I also clean the boardroom complex, and I'm the minutes secretary, and we have meetings twice a month, and I have to write up the minutes from those meetings.
You are probably one of the few female directors. What problems does this present in a male-dominated sport?
It doesn't cause too many problems. When I first joined the club, I think it was last season, there were 2 clubs in our league that wouldn't let women directors into their boardrooms. They've since changed their policy, so I haven't actually been refused entry to one of our club's boardrooms. When we visited league sides, West Bromwich Albion and Stoke stand out in my mind, they still have a policy of no women in the boardrooms. So there have been 1 or 2 fracas in those instances where myself and other ladies that have been with us have had our say. I think it's difficult for some of the men involved to think that a woman could know anything about football, but having been brought up with football the way I have, I like to think I know a little bit about football and I can hold my own in a boardroom. It also helps to keep the swearing down at meetings, and sometimes I think it helps to have a woman's touch around the place. Remember the little things that perhaps men sometimes forget. So it works quite well, really.
Halesowen Town finished their first season in the Beezer Homes League Premier Division in a highly satisfactory 8th position, but the highlight of the Grove was the highly successful reserve team managed by Steve Shilvok. The reserves won the Scoreline Combination Reserve League with 92 points, losing only 4 games and scoring 115 goals. We asked Steve Shilvok how he was appointed reserve team manager.
Well, I had a phone call out of the blue one night from John Morris, and we had a drink, and we came back to the club, and he asked me if I'd have the job. So I came along, and we took the job, and obviously we progressed from there. We had a few training sessions at one of the end of one season, and it was nice to be part of that, and I obviously took the job.
What do you feel is the potential of the reserves after already seeing 4 or 5 players make the first team squad?
Well, potentially we've probably got the best lot of lads locally with any other the local clubs. This season, obviously, it's been a lot more lads come through, and I think obviously now we can progress even further next season.
I think the success of the reserves has been epitomised in the winning the championship last season and finishing runners up this season.
Yeah, that's true. It's always nice to win every league what you go into, every cup, every match really. But the whole idea really is to get people through to the first team, and we've done that over the 3 years that we've been going. As we've said in the earlier question, potentially now we've got the best lot of lads we've had since we've started again.
During the 1980s, Halesowen Town's main sponsor was with Hardanger Properties, this deal being based on trust without a written agreement, Over a 10-year period, Nick Civita of Hardanger Properties had been a tremendous benefactor to the club. But in June 1990, after promotion to the Southern League, Harry Rudge, Roger Wood and Ron Mosley met in the boardroom to discuss future improvements to be required for the Southern League. In principle, a new 3-year sponsorship was agreed with Hardanger Properties. However, during the course of the 1990-91 season, it became clear that Halesowen Town were to lose the sponsorship from Hardanger due to cutbacks caused by the gathering recession. The club were very understanding of the situation and were full of appreciation for what Hardanger had done over a 10-year period. But for the season 1991-92, Halesowen Town were to seek a new sponsor. When it became known that a new sponsor was to be sought, a phone call was received in the boardroom from a lady stating that her husband's company could be interested. A meeting was arranged on April the 17th, 1991, with Mr David Berry and his wife Corris, who then attended the following game between Halesowen Town and Dover Athletic. And so, another door was to open for Halesowen Town as they received the major boost of a new sponsorship deal, initially for a 12-month period, from the progressive D. Berry and Company pipe fitting suppliers based in Smethwick under the managing directorship of local soccer fan David Berry. The initial sponsorship was to become the start of a close association with the club, which was confirmed by the announcement of a new 3-year sponsorship deal commencing in the summer of 1992. The support and help given by David since 1991 cannot be underestimated, and his day-to-day involvement is a major help in the aim of achieving GM Vauxhall Conference football at the Grove. As well as being main sponsor, he's become a great friend and active member of Halesowen Town Football Club. The D. Berry and Company signs are much in evidence around the Grove, and the players sport the company logo on both home and away shirts, with the familiar orange colouring of the D. Berry livery now reflected in the away kit. We joined David at his Smethwick premises.
This is the 4th and last division of the company, and is the fabrication and tools division, where tube is bought and cut into lengths, threaded either end or bent, or put into shapes and made brackets out of, etc, etc. As you can see, there are people here putting threads on tubing for special jobs to the motor industry. The welding that's going on at the moment is for some barriers for Halesowen Town Football Club, and the young man on the right is cutting tube to special length.
Could you tell us, how did you become involved with Halesowen Town?
Well, Richard, that's quite simple, really. I've always been a soccer fan, and I used to follow Birmingham City. Now, I know that's a double-edged sword. But for years, I'd not been watching Birmingham for one reason or another. And I was reading the Halesowen News one night, and on the back it said that Halesowen Town had lost their sponsor, Hardanger Properties. And I thought, well, I wonder perhaps if I could become the sponsor. But I threw it out of my mind immediately, because I thought, well, maybe they're going to be a bit too expensive. But it was 3 weeks later that I saw it again in the Halesowen News that they still hadn't found a sponsor. So we made inquiries. And to cut a long story short, I met Mr Mosley and the committee of Halesowen Town. We had a chat, and I was most impressed with the setup and the plans that the club had and still have got. And we did a 1-year deal. Everybody knows it was for £10,000, so it's no secret. And to be quite honest, I think it was an investment from the company's point of view well spent.
The original deal was 1 season. What has attracted you to stay for a further 3?
Well, as I said, it was a profitable investment from the point of view of business. And people have been very kind in the Halesowen and Black Country area and tried us out business-wise, and we've given them a good service, as we do to everybody. And commercially, we found it a success. Now, because of that, and also because being a football and soccer fan, I have enjoyed the last 12 months and found that the supporters, the players, the management and the committee and everybody involved with Halesowen Town are such a nice, friendly lot of people that it would have been heartbreaking, really, from myself and my wife's point of view, to leave the organisation. So we had a chat with Ron Mosley and the committee again, and the company were perfectly prepared to try a 3-year deal The chairman and directors, as they are now, were happy with that. So we're looking forward to a long and happy relationship.
Has becoming main sponsor of Halesowen Town affected your day-to-day business life?
Well, the business life, not so much. Although from time to time, because of the business that has come from the Black Country area, it does involve me going out more to those particular areas. My private life's been affected more than anything, because we're up there a hell of a lot of the time. We go to the club, we go to the functions, and we meet most of the people who are involved with Halesowen, including all the supporters, and we're thoroughly enjoying it.
After securing the main sponsorship, they followed a relatively poor start to the 1991-92 season on the field. However, in October 1991, the season was about to be brightened once again by an appearance in the FA Cup. In the fourth qualifying round, Halesowen Town were drawn away at Baldock Town from Hertfordshire. After 19 minutes, Baldock took the lead following a left-wing cross headed home by centre-forward Ian Bevan. Halesowen pressed for the rest of the game, and nearly all of the play was completed in the Baldock third of the field. A Malcolm Hazelwood cross here headed by Sean Flynn but cleared off the line. It seemed inevitable that Halesowen would score, and they did later in the second half with Sean Flynn heading home. Unfortunately, we don't have that goal for you, but it secured a replay at the Grove on the following Tuesday. The replay was a tight game on a windswept, rainy evening, and it took until 81 minutes for Robert Shilvock to fire home after good work from Flynn and Whittingham to put Halesowen into the FA Cup first round once again. The production of a matchday programme is an important and time-consuming task before each game at Halesowen. With the big FA Cup first round match between Halesowen Town and Farnborough coming up, we join Kevin Bissell in the club office, who explains what's involved in programme production.
That's how the matchday programme is produced.
Well, it's a fairly lengthy process, which begins with Bob Pepper and Chaz getting together, and Chaz getting his stats all done on his computer, which he updates every day when there's a match on. And Bob has to get in touch with Stuart, who gets in the information from the other clubs who were playing, the opposition, and then I get pages like which are on the computer over there, which you've probably seen earlier on. I reduce those down to fit into the page. Then I fit the pages all together, and then I have to start then to produce it by photocopying it for the match day itself.
As you said, the number of programmes per game.
The number of programmes per game is assessed on the amount of people that will be at the game. Usually we work on about 1 in 2. So for a crowd of say 600, we will do 300 because there are quite a few, as we call them, gimmies. That's for sponsors, visiting directors, players and officials who turn up. They all have a free programme, and what are left over are sold either in the club shop or down on the bottom turnstile.
How many people are involved in producing the finished article?
Well, usually there's myself and 1 or 2 others off the committee who come and give a hand. So you say 4 or 5 to get the finished article actually done and out. That's counting the collating, which is what's going on at the moment, the stitching and the batching up ready to go out on the match day.
What comes next?
Yes, they are stitched and folded, and that's done on a machine which is back here. I'll give you an example of how it's done. The machine we bought about 4 years ago, and to be truthful, it's been a godsend. Otherwise we'd have to do it all by hand, and that's a very tiring process. Now once they're done in batches, we usually batch them up in 25s and put them together ready to go out with elastic bands.
And so to November the 16th, 1991, and the 7th successive FA Cup first round appearance for Halesowen Town, with the visitors to the Grove being GM Vauxhall Conference leaders, Farnborough Town. After soaking up some early Halesowen pressure, Farnborough took the lead when Hobson capitalised on some hesitancy in the home defence to squeeze the ball home at the near post. 12 minutes later, Halesowen grabbed a deserved equaliser when Sean Flynn blasted home from close range after Kevin Harrison had flicked on a Stuart Edwards corner. Equalising goal lifted Halesowen and they continued to trouble Farnborough with their free-flowing football. 7 minutes before the break, Halesowen took the lead in spectacular style with a 30-yard drive from Malcolm Hazelwood, taking a slight deflection, leaving John Powell no chance in the Farnborough goal. On the stroke of half-time, Farnborough grabbed an equaliser when Brian Broom powered home a header past the helpless Tony Rowe after a good cross from Simon Reid. A pulsating first half then ending 2 goals all between Halesowen and Farnborough. In the second half, Halesowen continued to dominate the game, applying constant pressure to the Farnborough goal. Sean Flynn here crossing for Robert Shilvock to volley just past the post. After 56 minutes, a corner from the left from Andy Bradley is punched out by John Power and Sean Flynn heads, and John Power again fumbles the ball, but it's cleared off the line by the Farnborough defence. The normally solid Farnborough defence was starting to look rocky now, and from yet another left-wing corner, Andy Bradley to Kevin Harrison, who knocked it back to Andy Bradley, who crossed the ball for Malcolm Hazelwood just to weakly shoot into the goalkeeper's arms. 78 minutes gone and Halesowen still dominating this game. Malcolm Hazelwood heading back here for Robert Shilvock to volley over the bar. Malcolm Hazelwood continued to drive Halesowen forward, and here Bob Whittingham crosses yet again to Robert Shilvock, who flies just past the near post. Into the last 10 minutes, and another corner from Halesowen causing chaos in the Farnborough defence, cleared off the line once more. Frank Bennett had the chance to seal the game for Halesowen, but John Power was just too good, and from the rebound, Frank Bennett again crossed the ball in, but the goalkeeper came to the rescue. Try as they might, Halesowen could not find that elusive piece of luck. Sean Flynn here crossing, and Robert Shilvock hitting just past the post. And Farnborough Town just managed to hang on, and the final score at the Grove, Halesowen Town 2, Farnborough Town 2. With a 10-day break to the replay in Hampshire, league action continued. In what was generally a quiet league season, the match at Gravesend and Northfleet was certainly one to remember. Goal number 1 for Halesowen came after 17 minutes with Andy Bradley crossing from the right, Malcolm Hazelwood eventually picking up the ball to slot home for number 1. 20 minutes gone and it was 2-0 to Halesowen as Malcolm Hazelwood knocks the ball forward for Sean Flynn to chip over the keeper. It's gone and Gravesend and Northfleet pull a goal back through Chris Fordred. Further misery for Gravesend as Sean Flynn plays a clinical through ball to Malcolm Hazelwood, who coolly slots home past the Gravesend keeper to make it Halesowen 3, Gravesend 1. 9 minutes gone and it's 4-1 to Halesowen as a Hazelwood free kick is dropped by the keeper for Sean Flynn to pounce. And so into the second half, a long goal kick from Tony Rowe here flicked on by Frank Bennett to send Kevin Harrison through to slide the ball under the goalkeeper for Halesowen Town 5, Gravesend 1. 52 minutes gone and Sean Flynn plays the ball through to Robert Whittingham. Whittingham crossing from the right for Kevin Harrison to side foot in for his second goal and Halesowen's 6th. 52 minutes gone and it's 7-1 to Halesowen. A penetrating run from Bennett down the left wing, crossing for Harrison to make his hat-trick. 63 minutes gone and Bradley heads on for Alan Hatwood to fire home past the keeper to complete a record Beezer League win for Halesowen. Final score, Gravesend and Northfleet 1, Halesowen Town 8. 2 league goals at Gravesend were 2 of his final goals for the club. Following a 10-week training session with Coventry City, Sean followed the path of previous Halesowen players, making the move to First Division Coventry City. Following a reserve team appearance and goal, we asked Sean Flynn about his debut first team performance and goal for Coventry City.
Yeah, it was against Sheffield United on Boxing Day. To be in the side at that early stage, to score on it was superb.
How do you find life with Coventry City in comparison to here at Halesowen Town?
Well, there's no comparison really. I mean, it's another job. It's a job like anything else. But I mean, to play for Coventry City, it's superb. It's great.
Did you expect to play in the first team after being at the club for only 8 weeks?
No, not really. I mean, just to slam for him and then thrown in like that after 8 weeks, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was looking for next season to be in the side. I mean, it's a great bonus for me to be thrown in that short stage. Superb.
And so to Sean Flynn's final game for Halesowen Town in the FA Cup first round replay at Farnborough, with the winners drawn to play Torquay United in the second round.
We're still wondering how they'd failed to beat Farnborough at the first attempt. Last night they rarely looked like overcoming the Vauxhall Conference pacemakers when Simon Reid had opened the Town defence after half an hour. Reid's second, 5 minutes later, also begged questions of Town keeper Tony Rowe. Sadly, he didn't have the answers. Halesowen raised their game briefly in the second half, but hopes of a late comeback were killed off by Reid, who needed 3 bites at the cherry before wrapping up his hat-trick. With 2 minutes remaining, Malcolm Hazelwood's innocuous meeting with Paul Coombs was enough to convince referee David Axel of its value, a penalty to Farnborough. Coombs' decisiveness summed up Farnborough's superiority and left Halesowen with just memories of what might have been.
As with most non-league clubs, fundraising inevitably plays a major part in the running of Halesowen Town. 2 of the most widely promoted schemes are the long-running Tote and the Superloot, started in 1991. Superloot is a daily computerised draw. We asked director Kevin Bissell how it works.
Why did you start this new venture called Superloot?
Well, we started Superloot mainly to raise funds, and not like a Tote, as every other club around here runs. We tried to run something completely different, so we took on a computerised daily draw.
Can you explain the purpose of the Superloot and how it works?
Well, the Superloot, as I said, it's a daily draw where you give us your name and address, and it goes into the computer, and then once a day we press the button on the computer which throws up a winner. It gives us the name and address, and once a week we put out the results. They go into the daily press and also onto the Yelts line, and I do a result sheet which I put into all the agents' return envelopes and dish out once a week.
What part do you play in the Superloot?
Well, I administer the Superloot. I deal with all the commission, the banking of the commission for the agents. If they want it out, I draw it out for them. I also do all the result sheets, as I've said before, and anything that's got to be done, the printing, advertising, I liaise with the Superloot manager and get all that done for him.
The Tote is run by Michael and Daphne Hipkiss with the help of Neil Smith. We asked the 3 Tote organisers when it was formed.
Halesowen Town's Tote was formed approximately 20 years ago. At the time, the social club wasn't built, and we made the weekly draw at public houses within the area.
Could you outline how the Tote works?
It costs very little to have a go in the Tote. For just 5p, you can have 2 numbers between 1 and 45 reversed. The prize money at present is about £140. Agents that sell the Tote for us get a commission, which is based on how much they bring in. It's on a sliding scale, from 10% right up to 50%, which we give for other social clubs or sporting clubs in the area. And the draw takes place in the social club on a Friday night.
The last few months has seen the Tote go through a revamp. Can you explain the changes?
it was decided within the club that the existing or old turf, if you like, was becoming a little stale. Been running for a number of years. We needed to do something to basically bring in more revenue for the club. We then embarked on this major revamp that we're almost at the end of now. We're scrapping the old 2 numbers and going on to what we're calling the alphanumeric, which consists of a letter, a number and a letter. We're increasing the stake money, which is obviously going to increase the income for the club straight away. We're also putting in extra incentives for the agents, i.e. A weekly agent's draw as opposed to, I think it was a monthly agent's draw. It used to be a cash draw. We're now offering prizes, meals, free gifts, that sort of thing, basically to get more agents to run it for us. We plan to try and get the income up to, well, the prize money up to £1,000 a week. Obviously that's going to take some sort of time, but we feel that we've made the right move. Initially, 1 or 2 people were against it. People are adverse to change, but now they know the score, as it were. We think we've done the right thing.
Now obviously, 3 separate drums. Letters in the first drum, number in the middle, letters in the second. Okay? The 3 people we got to draw it tonight, we're very pleased to have them with us, particularly as one's got a big game tomorrow, and it is great that he's come along and helps out tonight. Sean Flynn. Sean, would you like to come up, my friend? Let's give him a round of applause, lads. Okay. And thanks, mate. Right. Sorry, because he wants to get on the bloody video.
Got the golden.
He's got the golden in his pocket. And the other 2 people are going to draw it for us, are Liam Paul Johnson. Liam Paul, would you like to come, please? We'll actually draw the combination first, and then we'll make the agents draw after, because we got all the things on computer. So once we got the draw made, which will be looking through the computer, everything's on except a little few tickets. We might have to do just a little manual check, but in future, obviously, another week or 2, everything will be on, and we'll be running as we want to run. Okay, so just bear with us, as I say. We might not get a winning combination the first time with us 3. We got no bloody chance.
Karaoke up there.
Hey? They look like the bloody 3 degrees, don't they?
Hey!
Off you go. Right. The gold ball. What a plonker. Right. £60 then will be added, so the prize money tonight is £154. Correct, Michael?
Killed them off, Lee, hasn't he?
Oh, maths is superb. Go on then, blow breath. And the first number out is E. Sorry, I beg your pardon. The first letter out is E. Letter E. Okay, Sean? E.
What number you want? That's no good. Send him forward tomorrow, Sean Flynn.
And the number is number 9. So far we've got E9. Paul?
Vitamins?
Yeah.
Oh.
Off the table.
You want a vitamin in there now? Or a mineral?
Okay, sir.
No number on there,
I hope not, she'll be a letter.
1 and 9.
And it's E9I. That's the first draw, ladies and gentlemen. E9I. And the snowball's gone.
The man who oversees all the club finances is Company Secretary John Slater. We asked John how he fits this important role into his day-to-day life.
Well, that's a very good question. Everybody at the club works very hard, and it is difficult to hold down a full-time job and do the work that we do at the club. But somehow we manage it. Turning first to the treasurer of the social club, when I became involved with the social club some 7 years ago now, it was the intention at that time of the social club, and always has been, 2 major aims. One is to promote the social facilities for members, and the other being to provide finance for the football club. When, as I say, we took over the social club, this wasn't happening. In fact, the social club was in a loss situation. Through a lot of hard work and dedication by the committee over there, I think the results in the club are there to be seen. It's grown to a stage now where it's got the finest facilities in the league. We go around all the clubs. We don't see many clubs that are as good as ours. And also, we started on a 7-year plan about 4 years ago to extend the buildings and make the club into a vehicle that would make money for the football club. We're only 4 years up the road, and I think we've already managed that to the extent where all the extensions now are done on the club, and hopefully within a very short time we will be able to start providing finance for the football club. On the football club side, the financial role has changed recently. We used to have one treasurer with a finance committee. That changed, and the financial roles are now shared between 4 or 5 people. The system's working very well. I tend to oversee it on the budgeting side. It is very difficult to run a football club. It does take an awful lot of money, and I think if people on the terraces realised exactly how much money it took, they'd be quite frightened by it, and you can easily see why clubs go bankrupt very easily. So what we try to do is work on a balancing budget, where we project what income we're going to get in, what expenditure we think is going to go out, and what's left is left for the manager to form a playing squad for the year. It's not always as simple and cut as dried as that, and it does take a long time to get it right, but we're getting there. And over the years, I certainly think that Halesowen won't be one of the teams like Milton Keynes or Newport, places like that have gone out of business. I'm sure we won't.
You were also responsible for establishing the present club shop. Has it proved successful?
Yes, very successful. The club shop was started up during the Vars years, when there were large volume sales available then of scarves, hats, what have you. Obviously, after the Vars success, the club shop didn't go very well. We were still trying to sell the same things. It closed down for 2 years, and then after I'd been to a presentation one night at one of the professional clubs, it was the Villa actually, and I saw the range of goods that they'd got. Replica shirts were then coming into there. You know, these things hadn't been about it previously. We decided to have a go at it, and we opened it up, and it has been extremely successful. It's generated quite a few £1,000s for the club over the 3 years it's been going, and obviously it does become a mainstay of income for the club in bad times.
Another role you overlook is the kit for the 3 teams. What does your job involve?
Well, that's a strange one, because when Paddy Page resigned, he used to look after all the kit for the first team, and I thought at that time, that would be a nice easy little role for me, so I took it on. Oh boy, it does take a long time. It's quite surprising what goes into that role. Just the general putting the kit together does take a long time. You'd be surprised to see how much kit we do get through in a year. I was working it out for this interview actually, and in the last 12 months we've got through 136 pairs of socks. But it is an enjoyable role. It's always nice to get the kit as best we can to get all the teams, down to the youth team, out in a presentable fashion. And I think we do that at this club. You see some second teams and youth teams who tend to come not dressed, shall we say, in the best kit. We do try at this club to treat the youth no differently to the first team.
Difficult mid-season spell during late 1991 and early 1992, manager John Morris had to look to improve matters, and with the full backing of the committee, record signing Richard Massey was brought in at a fee of £5,000 from near neighbours Stourbridge. Several youngsters were also introduced from the reserve squad. Results improved markedly throughout the spring, and by April the Grove was once more full of optimism and confidence. And so to pre-match preparation for a big league game against league leaders Dover Athletic, who needed to avoid defeat to clinch the title and promotion to the GM Vauxhall Conference.
Okay, right footer in you go. Okay, left footer in you go. Get organised. Oh! Four. Hey, I'm going to chip in. A bit closer up.
Get down and settle with your tongue.
In you go. You get on a video ball. Okay. You get it? The ball disappeared for a second. You don't know more, do you? Okay, right. Tremendously bend your neck. How many times is this? Hold it then. If we're shooting into his body, it's easy for him to hold. Okay? Anything coming in near post, he sets anywhere like this or anywhere like that, it's easy. We won't keep us at full stretch. Okay? Because in a minute we're going to introduce rebound men. Okay? Oh, great strike, yeah. That's where we want it. Well done, son.
Boy, you got us on there.
Okay, in we go. That's where we want it now, eh? That's where we want it. In we go.
Okay. A typical training session at the Grove.
During the season? Yeah, well, first of all, it's a good warm-up, which lasts. People are coming cold from work, obviously. So you have to lessen the chance of pulls and strains and all the usual football injuries. So the first thing is a good 25-30 minutes warm-up, which is a mixture of running and little exercises worked in with the jogging to get loose. After that, there's a 10 to 15 minute stretching session where we do emphasis on hamstrings, groins and the quad. After that then, it's short stuff, sprinting, shuttle sprints, a mixture, using a lot of cones, a mixture of short, sharp stuff. And then we normally finish with either shooting, crossing or couple of little game situations. We normally finish with the ball. You know, weather permitting, we normally finish with the ball.
How does pre-season differ from training during the normal season?
Pre-season split into two parts, three parts. The first part is people normally turn up for pre-season a few pound overweight at the best, half a stone overweight at the worst. So the first thing you've got to do is get them lasting 90 minutes and get the weight off, get them back down to the best fighting weight. So the emphasis at the start of pre-season is on long distance work. This club, I believe, has always done a lot of work over Clent pre-season, so that's your long distance stuff. When you've done that, then you're moving. When you've got players fit enough to last 90 minutes, then you work on sharpening them up and doing all the short, sharp sprinting stuff. When you've done that and you're happy of the fitness of the side, then you work on, when the friendlies are coming up, you work on then the technical side of the game, the shape and the formation of the side. So then you start to work your coaching into the sessions there.
How different is it working on tactics on the training ground and then putting them into practice on the field of play?
Quite a bit different, because the saying at the FA is practice makes permanent, and I think that's the thing. Practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes permanent. If I ask a fullback to play a certain type of ball, the more he plays that ball in training, the more the percentage chance of him playing that ball during the game, sorry. Because they're part-time footballers, if you ask them to do something once and they do it for you and you go away and think they've learnt that, then you inevitably fall down it later on because they haven't learnt that. It has to be rehearsed again before a part-time footballer can take it into a game. The big factors are you get more time to do things on the training ground, I'm on about playing-wise, than you do in a game. In a game, everything happens that quickly. And there's that much more pressure that it's so much easier to do it in a training situation than it is in a match situation. If you ask a player in training to hit the target, he might hit it 4 times out of 6. If you're doing shooting, in a game he might only hit the target twice out of 6 because there's so much more pressure, you know, on the situation in the game. Right?
On match day, players arrive at the Grove at 1:30. Club physio Gavin Blackwell is on hand to attend to any treatment required before the match.
Make it look rain. Oh, no, strap.
Yeah.
It's Bate, isn't it? I bet it's so, player. Other way. Things have been there. 3 weeks, I think. These are 3 weeks.
As team physio, what does your job involve?
Well, basically it covers 3 main categories, which is basically the same if it be Halesowen Town or Manchester United. The 3 categories are preparation, treatment of injury and rehabilitation side. Basically, match preparation is on a match day, getting players ready to perform, i.e. strapping ankles, massaging legs, having enough equipment at their means, and getting players basically in the right frame of mind to perform. The second area is treatment of injury on the pitch, where there's a lot of pressure placed in a competitive environment, i.e. crowd, referee, manager. Basically it's a case of diagnose, treat, let us know how you're getting on. You do get the injuries where, i.e. broken legs, cuts, where you need to seek further medical advice, which is where the club doctor or a hospital would come in. Right. The second side is the rehabilitation side and aftercare. Once an injury has taken place on a Saturday or any game, it's ice, compression, elevation for the first 48 hours, and after that you reassess and you see the player like on the Tuesday, and then it's getting him, keeping his general fitness up and getting him back onto the field ready to play. Some could take a week, could take up to 12 months. That's basically it.
At 2 o'clock, all players assemble in the dressing room complex for a team talk from manager John Morris and Stuart Hall.
Hello.
Here we go. What was it? I think you did cameras.
I'm seeing from the camera.
Right here.
Dad, number 6 mate. No, I see you all the time.
Is there a speech on there? Maybe we can get here for an hour. And do a little bit. And of course we can have a chat and more time because of the 2 games that we've got left against the opposition today. Probably are going to have little bearing on our positions in terms of the league. We definitely have one on theirs, and I think it'll be one hell of a feather in our caps if we can get a result over them one way or another, and the bombs over favour anyway on the way. All right. All the do it all. Very well, very good. First half we obviously played the football. Second half I think we possibly tired a little bit to a degree, but on saying that, we kept plugging away, and I thought possibly we was worthy winners in the end. But I think it just goes to show how difficult it is, because again we've played a side that just wouldn't lie down. I mean, we was 1 up, and although they never really tested us, especially first half, as soon as they got a sniff second half, they was prepared to go at us and very, very capable of doing us. If they'd have got the second goal and not us. And even going 3-1 up, they just wouldn't lie down. I think possibly the cause of the second, I'll lay the first one down to saying, well, okay, they close him down quickly enough, but I'm saying that he hit it well, so you know, I mean, it's catch-22. Let's put it down to a bit of credit side. But the second, and I thought that there's possibly a few places where we can improve on that, especially in terms of making sure, especially your back four, that we push on a little bit, because if we'd ever not actually won the first header, I don't know how Darren thinks, but if we'd ever not won the first header, the second header would have been further out. The shot would have been further out. So the first header was won, and okay, we might have lost that. But if we'd have lost it on the edge of the box, or a bit further up, even just 5 yards further up, then it wouldn't have been a 6-yard tap-in rather than an actual 8 or 10 yard shot. So, you know, we do need to probably just push up that little bit of 5.
We just had a little spell prior to their goal where we just defended deep, too deep generally. We were defending 18 yards and content to hold that. And even when we were getting half decent stuff in, we weren't coming out with the ball with us. And that led to the goal, that bit of pressure.
I can appreciate that possibly I'm saying that when it was going out, it was coming back, straight back in. And I can understand that. I can understand that. But possibly, you know, I mean, that situation. And okay, so all of a sudden, I'm saying back four we're defending too deep, but all of a sudden, one statement brings everybody else into it.
Yeah.
Saying, well, why is it coming right back? Kev, Frank, why is it coming right back? Midfield lads, why is it coming right back? You know, we can't get out if you can't hold it up for us. So you need to get out of it. You need to get out of it and give us a chance to get up. So all of a sudden, from one statement, it becomes a team game. So that's what we've got to learn from. But as I say, the big thing, Ek, is making sure, especially back four, that you get into an habit that once it's gone, we push. We don't, you know, we don't clear. We don't clear and then say, where's that going? We clear and 5. We clear and 10, depending on how far it goes. All right, and then we can squeeze. All right. Obviously, as I say, good result in anybody's terms, and I can only say well done to that, because after the flack and the stick from Monday, that was the best way we could probably retaliate anyway, and that was the best answer we could give anybody. And it's there again today. I tell you, as I say, we'll make a couple of changes today again, but the stage is yours again. The stage is yours. You know, you're probably playing the best side in the league.
Big crowd.
Very big crowd. So the incentive's there. And we are only having one go at them, aren't we? We're going to have, hopefully, everybody will be available for Thursday. If not, we're going to have another knock at it. So we've got 2 goes at it. We've got 2 goes to have a go at them, at probably the best side. They've lost 3 games all season. So to lose 3 games all season just speaks for itself anyway. So I don't need to say anything more than that. All I'm concerned about is, it don't really bother me deep down whoever wins it. Because we ain't going to win it, so it don't bother me whether Bromsgrove or Dover win it. The only thing that I've got against these guys is that they've made it awkward for us by not letting us go on a Sunday and wanting us to go midweek.
Get our own back today.
So we can get our own back today. Alright? But as I say, there's a couple of changes, and obviously that, you know, as I say, taking into account everything. But as I say, the performance the other night was very good. But the team, Darren in goal, 2 full-backs, Shane at right, Aidan will come in at left, 2 centre-backs, Ian and Eric. Midfield, Bradder will play right, Malk and Richard in the centre. Darren will come in left.
Darren will come in wide
left. And then up front is Kevin and Frank. Alright? The 2 subs, Alan Atwood and Matt. Alright? As I say, nothing against the 2 young lads that played, because I think especially Andy has had a nice 4 or 5 games, but I just feel that, you know, we was just a little bit going a little bit back, I think, and it's taking its toll a little bit, because they knocked you about a bit. But I think you've had a good experience of it, and had a good feel of it, and know what it's like. And in Adam's case as well, I think, you know, he's done really well. So there's nothing detrimental to that, and I know that you'll come back and be ready for for next year, or even the 2 games that we've got for this year. All right. But again, it's a side that's picked just because I want to win the game. I want to win the game at the end of the day. That's more important to me than anything. This game's more important. All right. Come on, then, let's get changed.
Come on, quick as we can, chaps, quick as we can.
An important part of the pre-match for supporters are the announcements made over the club's public address system, installed at the Grove with the help of the BBC. We join David Johnson
Well,
before
good
the
afternoon,
match.
ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Town Football Club, can I welcome you again to the Grove for this afternoon's fixture in the Beezer Homes Premier League between Halesowen Town and Dover Athletic. Today's game kindly sponsored by Combined Steel Services. We'd especially like to welcome the officials, players and supporters of Dover Athletic, and we hope you have an enjoyable stay this afternoon in Halesowen and indeed a safe journey home to Kent this evening. Moving on to the teams for today, if you'd like to consult your matchday programme. 1 or 2 changes. First of all, for Halesowen Town this afternoon, in goal number 1, Darren Stedman. Number 2 is Shane Abel. At number 3, Adrian Cooper. Number 4, Eric Smith. Number 5, Ian Bettles. Number 6, Richard Massey. Number 7, Captain Malcolm Hazelwood. Number 8, Darren Goodall. Number 9, Andy Bradley. Number 10, Frank Bennett. And number 11, Kevin Harrison. The substitutes for Halesowen Town this afternoon: number 12, Matthew Martin, and number 14, Alan Atwood. Moving on to the Dover Athletic lineup. In goal this afternoon, number 1, Maurice Munden. Number 2, Nigel Don. Number 3, Jason Bartlett. Number 4, Tony Dixon. Number 5, Dave Walker. Number 6, Tony MacDonald. Number 7, Joe Jackson. Number 8, Mark Rees. Number 9, Tony Rogers. Number 10, Barry Little. And number 11, Colin Bluden. The substitutes for Dover Athletic this afternoon: number 12, Kenny Dyer, and number 14, Paul Malcolm. Your matchday referee today is Mr Bayliss from West Bromwich, and his linesmen Mr Pears and Mr Brinsford. Today's mascot for Halesowen is Jonathan Bate.
Could you tell us what made you get involved with Halesowen Town and the public address system?
Well, I think it's a combination of 2 things really, because I've always been a big fan of Halesowen, and before taking on the PA duties I used to do a lot of work for hospital radio and student broadcasting. So it's continuing the broadcasting element and helping the club really, which is what it's all about, just to give a bit of hand to the club.
And what are your matchday duties?
Well, basically, being an information service, I mean, there are all sorts of different PAs. You go down various clubs. I remember going to Farnborough earlier this season, and there was a guy on there who was actually broadcasting more or less for an hour and a half beforehand, and he was more of an irritant than anything else. I think it's just to be informative without being an irritant. Obviously, the main thing that people want to know, the teams, any club news. And what I'd like to do as well during half-time interval is keep people informed of other big matches round and about the country, and especially on a day like today, the big non-league matches, which it's very difficult for people to find during the half-time interval.
Now let's hear that again from the supporters' side at the start of the game.
Number 4, Eric Smith. Number 5, Ian Bettles. Number 6, Richard Massey. Number 7, Captain Malcolm Hazelwood. Number 8, Darren Goodall. Number 9, Andy Bradley. Number 10, Frank Bennett. And number 11, Kevin Harrison. The substitutes for Halesowen Town this afternoon: number 12, Matthew Martin, and number 14, Alan Atwood. Your matchday referee today is Mr Bayliss from West Bromwich, and his linesmen Mr Pears and Mr Brinsford.
On 36 minutes, Malcolm Hazelwood intercepted a throw-in to put Frank Bennett clear, who crossed for Kevin Harrison to slot home and give Halesowen a deserved 1-0 lead. The second half saw one of the best ever goals seen at the Grove, a goal of sheer individual quality after 54 minutes from Richard Massey, leaving the goalkeeper rooted to the spot and completing a fine 2-0 win for Halesowen, ruining Dover Athletic's title chances. Now let's just see that again. Since 1990, the club has run a very successful telephone information line called the Yelts line. This trend has been followed by many other non-league clubs, but figures show that the Yelts line is one of the most successful in the non-league pyramid. Here's Richard Stevens updating the line prior to the final league game of the 1991-92 season at Bashley.
A warm welcome to the Yelts line on 0898 446 882 for all the latest news, views, interviews, match reports 24 hours a day, live as it happens from the Grove.
Hello and thank you for ringing the Halesowen Town Yelts line. Well, tomorrow the first team travel to Bashley for their final league game of the 1991-92 season. That game kicks off at 3 o'clock. The squad for tomorrow's game is Darren Stedman, Shane Abel, Adrian Cooper, Andrew Lunt, Eric Smith, Ian Bettles, Richard Massey, Malcolm Hazelwood, Andrew Bradley, Darren Goodall, Adam Patrick, Frank Bennett, Kevin Harrison, Alan Atwood and Matthew Martin. So as I say, that's the final league game of the season and that game kicks off at Bashley at 3 o'clock. Looking forward to the close season now. The work starts on the ground on Tuesday night, so any helpers who are available on Tuesday evenings, Thursday evenings and Saturday mornings, all hands to deck and anybody, all work is appreciated. This year we're concentrating on the training ground for next season and also the Stourbridge Road and behind the goal, as well as general maintenance work around the ground. The Dover, and now moving on to the video of the Dover game. That match last Saturday was videoed by PV Video Services, and to obtain a copy of that video you can ring the social club on 021 550 8907 or me, Richard Stevens, on 021 550 8337, and the price of that video is $7.99. And finally now we'll move on to the Player of the Year dinner dance. That this year is at the Hayden Hill Leisure Centre and the price per ticket is £5. The date for the day is May the 15th, and anybody who'd like a ticket, please see Roger Wood in the social club. Don't forget, Bashley away tomorrow, kick off 3 o'clock. You can get all the match reports here on the Yelts line at 5:30. But as for today, thank you for ringing the Yelts line.
The travelling Yelts fans were in traditional party mood for the final league game of the season between Bashley and Halesowen Town. Halesowen raced in front with Richard Massey's fierce rising drive after just 3 minutes. But that lead lasted only 30 seconds as Whale pounced onto a loose back pass to equalise for Bashley. Halesowen's reward for an enterprising start to the second half was a brilliantly engineered 57th minute strike by Kevin Harrison to restore their lead. But victory appeared to have slipped from their grasp just 10 minutes from time when they failed to cope with a long throw and Leroy Whale forced home the equaliser again for Bashley. However, Malcolm Hazelwood scored a late winner for the second season running at Bashley to end Halesowen's campaign on a high note, his 87th minute penalty giving John Morris's side 3 richly deserved points. For the second season running, Halesowen Town finished in 8th position in the Bate Homes League Premier Division, but to brighten the year, the youth team, under the management of John Woodhouse, won the Banks's Brewery Youth Division title.
Hey, everyone's going right face.
Record signing Richard Massey was asked about the pressures of playing in the Bate Premier League compared with the lower Midland Division.
The game is a lot faster and there's a bit more quality in this league than there was at Starbridge or in that league. You don't get as much time on the ball, you close down a bit quicker. The crowds make a big difference, especially when they get behind you. Some get on your backs, but you just got to brush that aside and just keep trying to play.
Since signing from Starbridge, you've scored 6 times for the town. The recent one against Dover on Saturday must be one of the most memorable. Can you tell us how it occurred?
What I remember of it, I think they cleared the ball, and I think it was Adrian Cooper knocked the ball inside, and I took it on my knee, looked up, and just hit it really. It's nice to see it going.
New club captain Eric Smith was asked what the Players' Player and Supporters' Player of the Year awards meant to him.
Well, when you get voted, when you pick up any trophy, it always means something because it's another year gone in your football career, isn't it? You know, I always feel proud to get voted, especially players. The supporters does mean a lot to you because them are the people that come through to watch, you know, and sometimes they get some stick, but they're pretty good, really. But the actual players one, I mean, that to me, when you got such good players anyway, if they vote for you, they mean, you know, they think you've done well all season, and that always means a lot to you. And I always have done, you know. I've won a few, not that many, but that's every time you do win one. Even now I'm 30 somewhere, you know. They still mean a lot.
You played at Halesowen now for 4 years. How has the side and style of football changed in those 4?
It's an odd one. I don't think the style's changed that much. Obviously now, from a personal point of view, the forwards are better. And you come up against quicker, more skillful forwards, but if you give them a chance, they'll put it in the net. On a team, I mean, when I first come here, you got the likes of the Joinsons, and there was names, and I was proud to come here at the time, you know, and I'm still proud to play here. But I think you can't really compare the two teams because when I first came, we was in the Southern Midland, and now I'm in the Southern Premier, and it's completely different. I think the first side would have done all right in this division if we'd have got through the first year I was there. But losing players, you know, like Dino and Piercy, Flinney, it's hard to relate to a side because sides are changing, new lads are coming up. I mean, I'm glad I'm still here, you know, I'm still pegging away, like, you know. But I think the side now would probably be a better side because we're playing in the higher league. You know, that's all I can say really. I enjoy playing in both sides, and hopefully I'll play in a few more, you know.
Okay, here we go. Hold on. Okay, go. Go.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Hold on.
Top goal scorer Kevin Harrison describes his first 2 seasons at the Grove.
Showing the line. Yes, yes. Time, Murray.
You recently played your 100th game for Halesowen Town. Can you tell us of your 2 years at the club?
Yeah, well, first year, had a good year, scored 25 goals, but the team in general let too many goals in. We finished 8th, which was a bad position. This year, defence was tightened up a lot, but we hadn't scored so many goals. I think striking a balance between the two, if you get the scoring of the goals right and the defence right, had a chance of winning the league.
Being top goal scorer for Town for the last 2 years, do you feel any extra pressure when you hit a drive back?
I feel a certain amount of pressure, but I think my game is not just about scoring goals. I think I work quite well in other areas, so it's not too bad really. Just keep plugging away and not afraid to shoot, and I know they'll come back.
Richard Stevens is the youngest director at the club and runs the Junior Yelt Supporters Club to encourage the younger element to come involved at the Grove. We asked Richard how he became involved with Halesowen Town.
Well, it was back in 1987. I'd been supporting the club since 1993, since the first bars run, and I wanted to get involved. So I asked Fred Birch, who was a trainer then, whether I could help him with the kit and what have you, and then they let me know, and that's how it all started.
What positions have you held with the club?
Apart from, as I say, doing the kit and the balls throughout the 4 years, I started helping with the mascots and a Junior Yelts Club.
What is the Junior Yelts Club?
The Junior Yelts Club, if you can play for the Colts, then obviously you can get involved with Halesowen Town. But for those who aren't gifted enough to play football, we needed something to get them involved with the club, because we have got quite a young generation of supporters. So I proposed a Junior Supporters Club, which was passed last season, and for a small membership fee, you get a free card so you can get in every game, free of charge, and a small starter pack of various souvenirs. And we also hold social events for the supporters.
What is the position you hold at the moment?
The position at the moment, I'm actually a director of the club. I was asked back in January of this year whether I'd like to join the board, and it was a great privilege for me to be asked, and I obviously took it up. And I also do the 7-day hotline, the Yelts line, which is just something else I do.